An ultramarathon is any run or any race longer than a marathon, so anything longer than 26.2 miles. And today we're going to be covering everything ultramarathon, how to get into it, what type of ultramarathon you might like to do, what kit you might need, some good first timer events, plus we'll also have a look at what the training looks like, and I promise you it's probably not as hard as you might think it will be, so stay tuned for that. Now over the last few years I've run some 50Ks, some 50 milers and a handful of 100 milers as well, and today I want to show you that ultra running really can be for everyone. Now you might well think that running an ultra marathon is surely one of the hardest things that you can do in running, and while yes there are lots of really tough races out there, but there's also a general vibe around ultras that they're a lot more relaxed than running a road marathon, for example, and some ultras can take you to some incredible beautiful parts of the world, and that's one of the reasons why ultra running has seen such a big boom in recent years. There are so many different distances, surfaces, formats, there's so much variety, so I guarantee there'll be something in here for you. Now, the standard distances in ultras tend to be 50k, 50 milers, 100k, 100 miler, 200 milers, and anything up to around about 250 miles for the most part. We'll come on to some longer races a little bit later on the video. And I should say, if these are on trails, they'll be around about this sort of figure. Nobody's measuring these courses out on trails. So starting out with 50Ks, this will obviously take you a little bit longer than a marathon. Moving up to 50 milers and 100Ks, you're talking around about sort of 10 to 15 hours to complete something like this. You're not going to be running consistently through this whole distance. For a lot of people, there may well be some walking breaks, some walking up some of the hills. Moving on to 100 miler distance. For most people, you're talking around about 20 to 30 hours to finish a 100 miler. Probably no sleep. You'll be running through a whole night. And then moving up to the 200, 250 mile distance. This really is not for beginners, but I thought you might like to know a little bit about it. Here we're talking for 3+ days. Sleep becomes a big factor in these sort of races. Getting that sleep and then getting back up and running as well. Now, one of the very biggest road ultras in the world is a race called Comrades, where myself and my partner Sarah, who's filming this, will be traveling to very shortly. It's around about 90 kilometers every year. The distances do change slightly. Comrades is quite a hilly run. You either go up or down, and lots of undulations along the way, but for a lot of people they might like to start out with something flatter. Now in the UK we have a lot of canal races. Grand Union Canal Race, 135 miles running from Birmingham all the way down to London. Races along the Thames Path. You can then be influenced with temperature as well. Some very hot races, something like Spartathlon, 153 miles through the heat of Greece in the summer, or something like Badwater, 135 miles through California's Death Valley, or maybe someone that prefers running in the cold. Something like Arc of Attrition here in the UK in the depths of winter. The Spine Race have got lots of different distances, but tapping out around about 260 miles, and then Winter Downs 200 mile here in the UK as well. And then moving on to some slightly different races, track races. The 400 meter athletics track is a fantastic mental challenge. Now these can be either time, 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, even longer, up to about 6 days we hear some of these events are going on for now, and it's simply how far you can run in that time. Or they might simply be distance based things, so again your 50Ks, your 100 milers going around the track as well. Really big races here in the UK, something like Crawley 24, the Self Transcendence 24-hour in Battersea. Moving on to a new type of running which we've seen in the last few years called the Backyard Ultra, started by Lazarus Lake, Gary Cantrell, the guy that started Barclay, almost the name of that. And this is simply running a 4.167 mile loop on the hour every hour, and it's the last man standing. Now we don't know how long this race could last. The record at the moment is 450 miles or 4.5 days. You can then do ultras in the mountains, some big races, things like UTMB, Hard Rock, Tour de Chien, Western States, or maybe you want to look at something like doing an FKT, a fastest known time, not an organised race. Check out the FKT website, maybe a big challenge in your local area where you want to be the local legend, as Strava would say, but you could be the FKT holder for something like that. And then you might like to look at something like stage races, the big ones here, Marathon des Sables, MDS, Dragon's Back, Cape Wrath Ultra. There's a set amount of distance you cover each day, and then the clock stops at the end of each day, and it's your cumulative time over a period. So a lot of these may be around about a week of running, and the winner will be the person with the least amount of time running. And then finally, the longest certified foot race in the world, 3,100 miles, the Self Transcendence in Queens, New York. At the moment, the male record of 40 days of running to cover that 3,100 miles. The female record, 45 days. There were just 6 finishers last year when the race happened. Just an iconic race. Go and read all about it. Some fantastic documentaries. We'll link to those down below. Most of these races will have aid stations where you have a chance to refuel with nutrition and liquids that the race is giving out. Some of the races will also allow outside assistance from your crew. These are people that you'll know and they'll follow you around and can stop off at designated checkpoints for them and be able to give you assistance. So again, hot food, change of clothes, some drinks as well. And some races will also allow what's known as paces, particularly popular in the United States. And you can have a buddy that will run with you, help keep your pace, make sure your spirits are high, motivation high, and just for some instances in some more remote locations, it's a good safety thing to have out there as well. One of the biggest things with running ultras is you've got to find your why. People really need to find out why they want to be doing this. It's not a natural thing for the brain to be out there running these tremendous distances. Simply challenging yourself, pushing yourself mentally and physically further than you ever thought you could do. They really are good fun as well, and that can be a why. A lot of people might be escaping something, escaping a dull job, a bad relationship. We've all been there over the years, and it can simply bring a lot of joy to your life, a lot of purpose, or alternatively, just want to go out and explore, see some new parts of the world. Simply escaping. For me, I just love the solitude of being out there for hours on end, running through some beautiful scenery, just a sense of peace and freedom. Phones and stuff are away. You're just out there, you and the trails, with a single thing to do. It's a really amazing experience when you're out there. Some people do get a little bit disillusioned with road running, all the paces, the splits, setting PBs, the speed sessions and things you've got to do. And a lot of that does go out the window with ultras. So some people can find a really new love of running by running long and giving themselves slightly different challenges. And also some older runners do turn to ultras. Maybe they can't be hitting those PBs they want anymore. So if you've decided you want to get out there and run an ultra, what are some good races to have a look at? We're starting out in the south of the UK here. One of mine and my girlfriend's favourites, Centurion Running, offer anything from 50k, the 50k 100 Hills where we volunteered at last year. It's a really good, very beginner focused ultra event. So we'll link to Centurion Running down below. Threshold races like Race of the King, Race of the Stones, Race of the Tower. I've done 2 of them myself, but they really are very welcoming. They offer very generous cut-offs. You can walk a lot of these races as well, so you don't need to worry about being timed out and things like that. And they all offer some of those amazing aid stations out there. I'm very proud of their 90% finisher rate, so really most people will get round. Some other organisers to have a look at, things like Serpent Trail, SVP, which I think stands for Star Valley Path, I'm not sure, 50k and 100k, GB Ultras, and also Ultra X if you want to go a little bit longer. If you want to travel a little bit further afield from the UK, have a look at the list of UTMB races that they now have all over the world. They normally pretty much always offer races anything from about 20k, normally up to 100 miles plus. And if you want to look at some slightly longer races as well, then have a look at the World Trail Majors, a slightly new setup. They're offering some really amazing experiences all around the world. We'll link to all of these down below. Please let us know down in the comments, what are your favourite beginner-friendly races? Maybe in your country you've got some fantastic things. Help out the community and let everybody know. Now, of course, when you start training and racing a lot of these ultras, you're going to need some basic kit to get you going. So starting out with the fundamentals, you're going to need to get yourself a running pack because you're going to be running a lot longer than you would be during a marathon. You need to have a way of carrying some supplies with you, some nutrition, some water, some extra clothing, and some safety kit as well. So you have to be a little bit more self-sufficient. You're also going to want to get yourself a really good quality waterproof jacket, something that has tape seams, just because when we're out there for a long period of time, the weather can turn, especially if we're out in the mountains. You're also going to want to get yourself a head torch. Most races that are over 50 miles are likely to involve running during some periods of darkness, especially if they're going to be winter races. You're also going to want to find yourself some trail shoes, something that's going to be a little bit more grippy. A lot of ultras will be on trails or off-road, and you're really going to benefit more from having that extra grip, but also a more sturdy and harder wearing shoe that's going to be able to withstand a lot more abuse. Then also some basic safety kit out there, so a first aid kit, a foil blanket, a means of navigating around. For most people, that's simply on their watch, and of course a fully charged mobile phone. Now, of course, all of this kit doesn't come cheap. There's an organisation here in the UK, put them up on the screen now, link to them down below, that helps some individuals that are less able to afford a lot of this kit to be able to get into the sport. So if that applies to you, then as I say, we'll link to them down below go and check them out. So in very simple terms, what does the training look like for an ultra? Well, for a standard 50 to 100k race, the type of thing you'd find here in the UK, you're talking around about 15 to 16 weeks of training, the same length as a standard marathon training block, basically. If you want to check out our training plans for these, we'll link to them down below. The main difference between marathon training and training for ultras like this, you want to really try and get in something called back-to-back long runs. So for a lot of people, this might be on the weekend of a long run Saturday and then a long run Sunday. Getting used to running on tired legs, fatiguing them on Saturday, and then getting out and running them again on Sunday to give them even more of a punishment. Strength work is so important here. You might be able to get by with just doing some basic stuff at home, but ideally you want to be getting into the gym and lifting some weights and building that strength that you're going to need to power yourself up the mountains, down the mountains, and really run strong at the back end of a race. Another top tip is really try and train on a similar terrain to your goal race as possible. If you're going to be doing arc of attrition on the coast path, try and get down and run on the coast path. If you're doing some canal running, run on the canals. If you're going to be racing in the mountains, try and spend some time in the mountains, getting used to what it's like on the exact terrain of your goal race. And also with the training, a lot of very easy, low heart rate, relaxed, zone 2, conversational pace running, building a really big base, a strong cardio system that is going to allow you to run a very long way without burning out. Nutrition is so important with ultra running. We need to be fueling our body throughout the race to be able to run strong all the way through it. So we also need to be training our gut, trying new things, experimenting with all the weird and wonderful types of race nutrition you could get out there. And that has to form a big part of the training. So when you get to race day, you've got your nutrition plan sorted and you know your body's going to respond and be well to it and not give you any gut issues. So moving on to our little nutrition section here. As I've just said, ultra running is not so much about running, it's all about eating and consuming calories as we go along. Now you may think that sounds like a perfect, wonderful day out there, but so many people become unstuck in this area, getting GI issues, being sick, because they haven't consumed enough calories or the right calories that their body wants. If you can't keep your food down, you can't fuel yourself and you can't continue, and you'll be tapping that DNF button, unfortunately. It's as simple as that. Now, there are lots of different ways you can fuel your runs and keep your energy levels topped up. Some runners like to stick to your standard sports nutrition, so your gels, your carbs, things like Tailwind or like Morton. Other people like to have sort of like real foods, things like sandwiches, crisps, nuts, fruit, things like that, that some aid stations might be giving out as they go round. But as I've said, it's for you to find the right strategy for you. A lot of runners will come into an aid station, get as much stuff as they can, and then leave that aid station while walking, maybe up a hill or something like that, and then keep on consuming calories and getting that down as they power on through the race. If you can keep the sickness and the digestive issues at bay and are able to keep yourself fueling, you have a much better chance of getting to the finish. So if you've got your training done, your nutrition done, the final big crucial thing with ultras is all about what's between the ears, the mindset. Ultra running is around about, in my opinion, around about 90% in the head and about 10% in the body, the physical aspect of it. DNFs usually occur because the head has given up far, far earlier than the body has. Things do get tough, weather can get bad, aches, pains, blisters, sickness, the distance remaining, when you look down at your watch and it still says 140k to go, it can be very overwhelming and you start questioning your why. So make sure you work out your why before you even get out there. One of the very toughest races that I've ever done, when I had to push my body and mind further than it ever gone before, was a race I did in Cape Town, 100 kilometers. And if you want to watch that video's coming up here. Keep on working hard, guys. Keep on down. Let us know how you get on in your ultra training and racing. That's it. We'll see you in the next one.